Hey everyone, how are you doing? I hope everyone is having a great Wednesday. We made it to yet another week. We're going to be finishing up this painting, which is going to be fun. And so I'm happy to hang out with everybody. And let's see who's here so far. We have Dan from Indianapolis. How are you today? Great to see you. We have Patty from Illinois. Wonderful to see you. Love the miniatures you're doing. Just fantastic. JC from the Atlanta area, how are you today, sir? I'm so glad you're here. Very, very cool. So, we're getting close to the completion of this painting. Just want to do some cleanup, stuff like that, to really bring her all together. And I do have the folder right here with some of the custom stencils that I have, which is great. And so that is neat. Mr. Steve Leahy, how's it going? Yes, Mr. Steve Leahy is burning the midnight oil. So glad to see you. And so love the work you're doing, sir, of your grandchild. How great is that? Raul, fellow New Jersey guy, how are you today? I'm so glad to see you. How's everything? And we have Bobby from Cape Cod. How's it going, Bobby? Great to see you. So what a great group we have already. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Wednesday evening, end of summer. I think we have two more live streams. One more summer live stream. Isn't that interesting? Let's see. Let me look at my calendar. So next week will be the 18th. Yes, this is the next to last summer live stream. And, JC says, love the folds. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. That is so great. Mr. Michael McClung, how are you all the way from Maryland? Great to see you, sir. We have Color Graphics Roy from Jersey and Raul from Jersey. Great to see you. Got the Jersey connection happening, which is always great. Sopranos and all that stuff, right? So that's fun. And so here we are. This is my Airbrush in India ink technique. And, you know, I really love it. I basically did this for like 4 years, just Airbrush in India ink, perfected the technique. I use, Drew Blair's, Createx Drew Blair's 50/50 illustration white for the highlights during the painting. I wouldn't say the highlights, but the lights. And then for the highlights, I use sandpaper and white pastel with a stump, and that's a really great technique. We have we have Tone. How's it going, Tone? Great to see you, my friend. So glad you're here. That is great. So we have Tone in the house. He's doing some really great airbrushing right now, and love to see that. So that is just amazing. So great. And let me see what my subscriber count is, let me see. I'm going to come over here. And let's see what. Let me come over here. So my subscriber count is. I'm trying to hit 5,000 eventually, but I'd rather have 4,000 really good die-hard people like yourselves than 5,000 meh people. So I'm happy with what I have. If I have more people as great as you, then that's even better. But right now, I'm really happy with my subscriber base, so that is cool. And so let's see, got to go back to, okay, there we are. I can see everyone. Very cool, Tone, very cool. So what a great group we have today. I mean, it really is great. How's life out there in Maryland, sir? The airbrush is on its way, so that's exciting. And so I'm excited about that. And there's going to be some really great goodies for you. You're going to be hopefully pleasantly surprised. That's what we're hoping for. I'm hoping for. There's no we, because it's just me here. So we have our airbrush, and what we're going to do is, I always like to start with the detail mixture, half and half, diluted with water. So I'm going to get my detail mixture right here, and that's good. Steve Leahy says, be back in a minute, going to go charge the phone. Very important stuff. Take your time, sir. And I got to get some cups. Okay, just want to thank God that I have the ability to do this. Great people, and always want to give him the glory. And let's see. So here we are, detail mixture. I usually do like maybe 20 and 20 drops. Or you just eyeball it 1 to 1. Little bit of agua. Normally I would do like denatured alcohol stuff, not denatured alcohol, but you know, the pure water, and which the name kind of escapes me. But which you're doing just for the session, it doesn't matter if you use regular water, right? Let's see. JC said that Steve went napping. Let's see. So cool. And let's go ahead and put this in here. And I do have a test paper. Bam. And we're always going to test out the airbrush. Make sure it's operational. Doing what I wanted to do. And I think we're good. And Colette, how you doing? All the way from, not Wisconsin anymore, all the way from the Atlanta area. So great to see you. How are you today? So thank you so much for hanging with us, Colette. Okay, so here we go. And I'm going to get my reference. I use the program called Pure Ref. It is absolutely amazing. Okay, there we are. So I just like to get my feet wet, you know, just kind of move around. We have a dark over here. A little low that I was working with Createx paints, illustration colors, so I had the air pressure up higher. And just kind of doing some freehand work here. Again, you know, let's say like right here, this is a good time to soften edges, to make edges harder, right? We're at the end, right, of the painting or the completion. So we'll zoom in here, and you see we have an unwanted hard edge here. It's rather soft edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a aggressive eraser, but not a super aggressive eraser, and I'm going to go halfway into the light, halfway into the dark, and I'm going to do little circular motions. Kind of obliterate that hard edge. And kind of feather that into the dark, and feather that into the light, right? And you see how I basically obliterated that edge. Same thing, there's a nice soft edge over here. So you don't have to live with the edges in airbrush, you know, you just don't, and that's good. Ah, Colette, thank you so much, I appreciate you, thank you. Colette says she's looking good. I appreciate that so much. We have some hard edges over here, right, as the shadow of the hair kind of envelops her ear here. We're just gonna kind of help that along. So we're able to control our edges, and that's what we need to do. So you can do that at the end. When it's darker, believe it or not, it's more erasable when it's darker, when there's more ink on the surface. So that's good. And let's go ahead and really work that. I'm about maybe 2.5 inches from the surface. But look at that beautiful soft edge all of a sudden. Now we're painting, right? Now we're really thinking. And now you can feel her ear kind of going into the abyss of her dark hair. And then we have that nice hard edge right here, which really works. Gary, how's it going? Great to see you, my friend. How is everything? How is Kyle doing today? And so glad you're here. And I know you had a tough game with the with the Los Angeles Rams, but that was a great game against the Lions. And like you said, they're going to see each other again. And so that's great. Again here, I'm going to let that dry because me trying to, let me raise this up just a little bit. Come over here. See right here, we have a hard edge on her hairline. We don't want a hard edge because then it's going to look like a wig, right? And you don't want it to look like a wig. So we're going to actually go further in there. There you go. So this area right here is what we really want to attack, right? So I did put a little bit of ink on there, but I'm just going to dry that up. You don't want to erase on wet paper. That's going to cause damage to the paper, and the damage is always going to come back to haunt you from the beginning of the painting to the end. Oh, and Gary says every day he improves slightly. He actually said a few words today. Oh my God, that's wonderful. That is great news. And prayers continue going out to Kyle and your family and his girlfriend, and so things are looking really good. And I know Gary, he's going to be 100% before you know it. And you guys are always in my prayers. And I know it's a tough thing your family's going through. So you can see now I have this right here, and I'm just going to just kind of do the same thing. I'm not erasing in just the dark or just the light. I'm going right in that border and kind of smashing that border, right? Kind of obliterating that border. And I'm kind of doing like a little, like a dagger stroke, right? Just a little kind of dagger stroke like that. See that? Beautiful dagger stroke. And just kind of obliterate the whole thing. Because there really isn't a hard edge there, you know, which is important. Oh, great. Gary says he truly believes he will. Oh, definitely. Yes. I feel that way too, honestly. I feel he's gonna... They're young, you know, they bounce back. You know, if it was an old guy like me, it would be different. But he's young. He's gonna bounce back. I know it. And so that's fantastic. Everyone is pulling for Kyle and your family, definitely. And we have a great community in the airbrush world. I'm really happy with it. You know, it's funny because I'm in the fine art world, and you know what? The fine art world, it's not as warm of a place as the airbrush world. Does anyone find out about that? Thanks, JC. He says I'm not old. I'm just wiser. Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. And you see how I just stabbed myself right underneath my fingernail. How in the world did that happen? Okay. That hurt, man. So we're just going to and you know what? We don't have to get as dark. We do have the diluted detail mixture, right? And so Rome isn't built in a day. And with a detail mixture, you have to be very deliberate. Let it hit it. Let it dry. You know, that's so important. Hit it and let it dry. Hit it and quit it. That's a Timism. I do have a lot of them, you know. Honestly, I must have at least a couple of hundred. You know, I would say, which is really good. And just kind of hitting this right here, getting that beautiful soft edge. And you know, that's not to say there aren't some really nice dark edges, you know. James Brown, did he say hit it and quit it? How cool is that? I'm in good company. I do like James Brown, by the way. Thanks, Bobby. Yes, the Airbrush group of friends is really amazing. I totally agree. And Gary says he loves all his airbrush painting family. They all truly care, and we consider you family, Gary, definitely. And yeah, it's a very close group, right? It really is. It really is a close group. And I really do. That's the main thing where I love coming into Airbrush in 2009. Just how open people were. I was just surprised how friendly people were. In the fine art world, you ask somebody a question and they look at you like a technical question, they look at you like you're mad. It's like you're not take you got to take my workshop. That's the way the fine art world is. You know, oil painters, pastel painters. It's a very dog eat dog world. I'm going to come back in with a darker mixture. And so you can see here as I zoom out, let me zoom out for you guys. And you see how it works where we have the hard edges right here, and then we have some beautiful soft edges over here. It really works to get like a real sense of three-dimensional form. It's all about form, right? And same thing here, right? The Orbicularis oris. Now, this is something I'm glad I've seen, and this is a phenomenon. You ever see that when you pull down on the trigger and then it makes a mark? So that means I have to blow out the airbrush. Because there's something, when that happens, there's something keeping your needle from going all the way forward. And so that's an issue. And sometimes it's just something that's in that nozzle, and blowing it out, I would say about 80% of the time fixes it. And JC says, Tim, are you going to take a nap in between the feeds so Steve won't be the one? You know, it's funny. I always want to go to sleep, but you know, I fight it all the time. Even when I was a kid, I always fought naps. You know, I never wanted them. You know, never, never. As a kid, I was always, I could accomplish something. Okay, good news. We're not getting the airbrush shooting out paint when I'm not pulling back, so that's good. So it's a little darker. So the Orbicularis oris is this muscle that goes right around the mouth, under the lips to the top of the lips. And they call it Orbicularis, means orbiting, and oris meaning mouth. So Latin, it's orbiting, the muscle that's orbiting the mouth. So that's basically what that is. And yeah, little paint boogers, right, Tone? As far as getting stuck in the nozzle. So true. And yeah, definitely. So when I go to bed sometimes, like at 4 o'clock in the morning, I still want to paint, you know? I still have to force myself to get away from the easel. I mean, it's really rough. So right here, it's a little bit too dark in her lip, so I'm not happy with how dark it is. I'm gonna try it with very little pressure. But as I'm doing it, I'm going to kind of have the eraser go in a direction as if I'm actually putting the eraser on her lips and feeling it go around. So I'm pretending that I'm actually touching this beautiful woman's lips without her punching me in the head. Let's see. There we go. And you see how by doing the direction of the lips really helps. You guys are funny. Oh, and Roy says, wait till I get to his age. Roy's a young guy. Who's he kidding? You know? Let's see. So you see how I lightened that up, but I lightened it up, but still going in the direction of the lips. So I'm still thinking of form and imagining form. And that's important. And I can see that the dark goes way too high. So I'm just going to extend that light, but going in the direction or following the contour of her beautiful lower lip there. But be careful of damaging the paper here. That could be a real consideration. Well, Roy is wiser than all the group, that's for sure. Uh, that Roy is. But me, I'm not wise, that's for sure. Uh, Bobby says he's richer. Bobby says he feels Roy. That's funny. Feels Roy's what he's saying about the love of naps. So we have to make sure we get the drawing of the lips correct. You know, make sure that we have the proportions on the money. And the beautiful detail you get with these Extreme Patriot arrows. A lot of times there's no need for paintbrushes because you can pretty much achieve everything with the airbrush. Not that sometimes, you know, it looks good with the paintbrushes, or maybe it's better, but if I didn't have paintbrushes, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a bad thing. It would just be a little bit different. Just rounding that lip a little bit. Pulling this up. Really feeling what's going on in the shadows, right? Or the absence of light. And Michael says he's not old, it's just a different day. So true. And JC says, and pokes also. No one pokes you better than the extreme. Oh my God, I just had one earlier today. Just earlier. It hurt like heck. Yeah, it hurts. I feel your pain there, Mr. JC. One second rule always in effect. That's going to get those little subtleties of her expression and emotion. Which is very important, and I'll zoom out here so we can see where we're going. Some nice expression on her face. So now we're going to do some pastel action because we're getting to the end. You know, I mean, we do have 2 hours to play with, but doesn't mean we can't start now working towards the finish line. And so that's cool. And now we're going to take our white pastel on our 80 grit sandpaper, and we're going to get one of our paper stumps that are just dedicated to white pastel, nothing else. And hey, Shot of Inspiration, how's it going? So glad to see you. How's everything? Oh, cool. So glad to see you. And so I'm going to use this white pastel to kind of integrate some lights into the midtones. Wendy, are you Shot of Inspiration? It's so good to see you. How are you, Wendy, all the way from Texas? How are you doing today? And just, you want to keep your values very close, you know? And so let's see. Michael says, Tim, I'm looking so forward to getting the second airbrush. To work with both airbrushes would be a pleasure. Yeah, that airbrush that you're getting is going to be just, you know, it's just going to hum, right? There's going to be no issues. You're going to take it out of the box and you're going to just hit incredible details. Now, the Extreme Patriot Arrow and Extreme Patriot 105, the 105 is interesting. I think it has slightly better control because of the larger cup in the funnel, and I think it's a little more aerodynamic. I mean, we're talking like a hair better, but I think there's a little more control you're going to love in the 105. So cool. And Roy says, old people always need a nap. That's cool. And Gary says, at age 40 to 50, we go from feeling like we're 30 to age 70 overnight. And Wendy says, hi Michael, hi Kyle. Cool, very cool. And we're just going to start coming in with some of these lights here. And we want to compress those values, right? We don't want too big of a value shift, because that is the kiss of death as far as making things look round. It's not just her head or a portrait, it's the whole thing, making everything look round. Each feature is its own form, and some features have several forms on them. And they turn slow, and when things turn slow and they're round, that means that the values are closer. Notice as I make these values closer what happens. It gets more of a natural feeling. Things start looking round, and you're still changing the value as it goes from light to dark, but your value changes are much more gradual, and your adjacent value is much closer than its value, if that helps. And that's really good. And you see how I'm just continuing with making things round and getting the values, but I'm actually making sure that there's not a big jump from one value to another. And that's an important consideration when wanting to paint things in the three-dimensional way. We're painting form first. You have form, and then you have value and contour. The value and contour is not necessarily in that order, because it changes whatever's important to you at the time. So let me see, I'm looking for my kneaded eraser, and I believe I put it in the drawer, that's why I can't find it. Okay, let's see. It's under something, right guys? So I have my oil paints here. I'm gonna put it over here. See, my Winsor & Newton oil paints. It's difficult working in different mediums because you have to have different setups, and if you have a small studio like me, you know, it's not easy. Tone says his birth certificate is old and the hips when I sit too long. And let's see. Wendy says a whole body hurts, and then Mr. Leahy says no siesta, just needed to find his charger. It was behind something, right, sir? Ow. Something just stabbed me inside my kneaded eraser. Ooh. Look at that. I think it's a piece of... I think that was probably a piece of the Mylar from my plotter. It was in my kneaded eraser and it hurt. So, okay, so we were working on this area right here. And this is her alar cartilage right here, right? This is her alar cartilage. And we're just going to lightly touch this. And alar means wing. And it's very interesting that it has that designation because it is in the shape of a wing, which is great. And Michael says, Steve, it will be the last place you checked. That's so true. And we got a little stubborn spot right here, so I may have to come just full force with the pastel. Now, I'm a signature member of the Pastel Society of America. won about 60 national, international awards for pastel, so I know how to manipulate the medium. And that's why I usually incorporate it into almost every medium that I use. Except for oils, can't incorporate pastel, but I do use pastel techniques with it, which is great. You know, mixing wet into wet, and you know, kind of having that mixing on the surface sort of thing, and I do that in oils. Beverage of choice is NyQuil. A charger for each room. They are kind of inexpensive. Wendy, have a great night. Thanks so much for hanging with us. Oh, okay, Wendy, that was a quick visit, but short and sweet, right? So, I'm so glad. Oh, that was not Wendy. That was Patty. Wendy's still here, thank goodness. And Patty, have a great night. Take care. So glad you're here. And oh, cool. So Wendy's still here. That's great. And I'm just going to make sure I cover this one little trouble spot here. In every painting there's a trouble spot. Remember that. And what I'm going to do, if you have an area that might have like a dark spot, then kind of lessen the contrast around it, and that usually helps. See how that helped? You can do a lot by manipulating contrast. Right here. So here we have the alar cartilage coming down, and it's not part of, so we have to make sure that we don't let the alar cartilage be part of the philtrum. It's a different form, but it stops right here, right? We got to make sure it stops, and then the alar cartilage comes afterwards. And then we can take this, and there's a slight light that's on the edge of her actual nostril. Well, and if you're overzealous, it's okay. You just tap it and it goes right away. And we just calm it down by tapping it. There we go. And that's, from close up it looks kind of jarring, but it really isn't. And we'll actually leave it there because from far away it's really going to translate well. And then we'll go here. This kneaded eraser is starting to feel gross. You ever see when it gets sticky? It's time to go. So that kneaded eraser is done. So here is the alar cartilage, which, the philtrum, which starts here. So we have to make sure that these forms are separate. And how we can do that, kind of separate them like so. And then there'll be a slight dark right here. And then of course the wing of the nostril, you have a slight dark coming down like that. Those are little tiny adjustments, but they go a long way in, getting the proper anatomical forms and not making one form and another form become one form. That's when things go awry. And we can create this little shadow right there, and then we can kind of pull this in like that. So now we have several forms. So another way you can describe a form is to actually, have the adjacent form create that edge that you want, right? Hey Astral, great to see you. How are you, sir? I'm so glad you're here. And so now we can really accentuate the alar cartilage on the bottom here. And coming right in there. And we have this, which is the Fonz & Porter, your friend and mine. Kind of create that stark edge there. Got to be careful. That other stump, I wasn't sure. It might have had graphite on it. So you don't want to test it out, because graphite and white pastel make a very ugly combination. Not fun at all. So when in doubt, chicken out. And here we go. This is a nice one. This is a nice, good stump. Beautiful. The right tools make a big difference. Beautiful. And right here, we can come in with the neat eraser, kind of. That's the great thing about using pastel. It's very forgiving, very forgiving. And Astral says he's just about moving around now. We'll get back twinges now and then. Oh man, hope you're feeling better, my friend. So sorry to hear that. And let's see. So here we have the philtrum, and we have the light facing part of the philtrum right here. And just pull this over. So beautiful, isn't it? You know, the human body, the human face is just a subject that I could do forever. And you know, the whole thing about painting the male and female form, you won't understand one without understanding the other. So it's important to do male and female, even though I have a strong bias to paint female portraits and female nudes. The male nude is really important. I mean, look at Michelangelo and, you know, all those paintings and drawings, how important it is. See how like compressing that really makes a big difference. Now right here is interesting. Right along the lip, that lip is kind of like jutting out, and as it's jutting out, God is awesome. That is so true. So very true. Praise God. And Mike says, I love how you just add a little bit more touch to details. Makes a world of difference to the painting. She's really looking awesome, Tim. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate you. Thank you. This is the fun part, right? This is where it all comes together. And as you know, it's like, you know, putting that cherry on top, you know? It really feels good. So this is some of the fun stuff. Now, I may have to come in with the actual pastel here. So I'm just going to kind of stipple it, because we are getting a little bit of a white border here. That white border is caused by the skin facing the surface, so facing the light more directly. And then right here, we have more light as the philtrum is just hitting, it's just facing that light just a little bit more right there. I'm almost stippling it because, you know, I want to make sure I get it right. And right here, we have this beautiful light right here. Coming up, there we go. Just a little tiny differences. Tiniest little differences. And now we'll take our white pastel. And the great thing about the white pastel, you can go right up against the dark of the ink, no problem. You have no pencil lines, notice. they're all gone. The pencil lines are not trapped underneath the India ink nor the Createx 50/50 illustration white. Oh, making the form beautiful, but he is awesome in everything. Oh, thank you, Wendy. You are awesome as well. That's for sure. I appreciate your wonderful compliment. So underneath the nostril, that hole of the nostril hole, I don't know what it is. I want to know every single anatomical term, but I want to study with a plastic surgeon. Anyone know a plastic surgeon that would let me study with them independently? That's the kind of knowledge I want of the human body. And then we'll compress these values over here. And then here we can, so here's the thing, if you stay in one area for a while, you're going to get to know it, right? So if I stay in this nose and don't say, okay, done, I'm going to get to know that nose a lot more. I'll be able to say more about that nose. So don't be afraid to spend a half hour on a nose. Don't be afraid to spend 45 minutes on the lips. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to do that. Oh, pastels, yes. And if you're interested, I could definitely tell you what brands to get for whatever you want to know. Like I said, I have many years of experience in pastels. Gary says the real question is, who's the test patient you're going to practice on? That's for sure. That is it. You know, that's going to be difficult. You know, I'm sure. I'll tell him, how else am I going to learn how to do a rhinoplasty, right? We're going to compress the values of these lips here. And I know it kind of looks a little weird close up, but I want it to be close up because I want you to kind of see my thinking, or lack thereof. Now I'm going to get that mono eraser that Mr. Steve Leahy talked about. So Steve, since we got you in the group, when is the second live stream going on? Have you decided yet? And so pastels are great, you know. Like I said, I just have knowledge of all these mediums and I only have so much time in a week. So I feel guilty no matter what medium I'm not doing, but I can't do all mediums. Right now I'm basically concentrating on oil paints and airbrush. But I'm proficient in pastels, definitely. I would love to do them more. Maybe I'll do a Saturday live stream, just a pastel live stream. I'm thinking of doing that. And Mr. Michael says, I love how, oh, okay, very cool. So we've seen that question. And so right here, I'm going to compress these values here. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So you can see how the attention to that area kind of made a little bit of a difference. And let's lighten her up just a tad. There we go. So you see how we could make a little bit of a difference. I'm actually going to take my pastel pencil and I'm going to hit these lights. And that's a little overzealous, right? You know, I got to calm down a little bit here. I'm just going to tap it. There we go. Just make those lips nice and watery, moist lips. And make sure that, because where those highlights are is basically going to tell you what the shape of those lips are. And then we have a little bit of light right here. And now we're really shaping everything. We're shaping those lights. And you might say, hey Tim, that's a little light. And I would say, you know what? You're right. So this is what I'll do. So the magic of the pastel is that you can just take your kneaded eraser and you can tap it and you can shape that. So let's say I want it a little bit lighter, a little bit darker here. I can tap it and I can control just what becomes darker and what stays light. And then I could just take this and kind of shape that light a little bit. And those lips are compressed in value, which is good. It's what we want. And then here, much too. See that distance, that disparity of values? And that's too high, so you just have to compress those values. Less is more. And I'm finding that a lot in the last couple of months of my painting journey, is that less is more. More detail is good, but less contrast is much, much better than too much contrast. So right here, we can kind of chill out this gray here. Watch what happens when I chill it out. She starts to kind of fall into place and be a lot less distracting in her lips. Even if there are value differences there, if we can lessen those value differences, it will be into our benefit. You ever see when someone paints feet or hands and they go ahead and they start putting every wrinkle because they're excited to do it? It has a realism to it, but it doesn't have a unified form. It's not all, it's like it's not all feeling like one big organism, the hand. And it becomes a lot of little pieces, and that's what we could definitely be guilty of, is creating a lot of little pieces and not, you know, one form. So those are things to really consider. So, and Mr. Astral says, be careful what you ask for, Tim. There's been a lot of bad results from so-called plastic surgeons. So true, yes. Gary, have a great night. Thanks for hanging with us. And go Rams next week, okay? I'm going to be rooting for the Rams for you. And so I hope to see you on Steve Leahy's next live stream. And take care, my friend. And you should be receiving a package from me very shortly, which is very cool. And here we go. I'm going to work on this lip here. There we go. And then right here, kind of shape this a little bit. There we go. And right here, we're going to soften this here. Michael, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate the support. It means so much to me, sir, your friendship and hanging out. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart. And that really helps the channel, helps everything grow, and just gives me a tonic, you know, that I'm doing something right here. And Wednesday nights, Michael, have become such a big part of my life. I mean, I can't imagine my life without it, honestly. Without seeing you guys and girls, you know, and the wonderful friendship that I have from you all, and the camaraderie. I mean, I think no other art community has what the airbrush community has. I really feel that's true. How many feel that the airbrush community is much better than other art form communities out there? The alar cartilage is a little more pronounced in the picture, and I'm putting that there. Oh yes, more friendly and helpful, definitely, Wendy. That's for sure. So now I'm just going to come here, kind of get the three-dimensional quality of her eyelids, kind of pushing the three-dimensional forms now, right? Really going to town. Here we have a beautiful edge of the lower eyelid here. I'm going to put that in. Perpendicular, not parallel. See how we create that real beautiful edge here. Love this edge. I like living on the edge. Not really. I'm the opposite. There we go. See that beautiful edge? And how we can really... So we want to put this little area here. Some call it the tear bag. I don't believe that. So there's this little dark that's right here. And then here's the malar fat compartment. But I want that to stand out. And how can I make that stand out? I'll tell you. First we're going to erase this right underneath the dark of the lower eyelid there. Now that's really saturated, so that means the best way is probably white pastel. And we'll see how that works. You know, every painting is like, you know, it's a test. It's like a test lab, right? You don't know what everything is going to, what's going to work and what's not going to work. I'm just going to put a little bit of light right adjacent to the dark of that lower eyelid. Just a little bit of light there. Now there are times when it's just not taken. You're at the end of the painting, the surface is, you know, saturated in different ways. So you may have to come in with just a straight white pastel pencil and kind of put that in like so. And that's really strong, like, what are you doing, Tim, right? But we're just going to soften this up like so. Just like so, like right there. And then we can calm it down with the kneaded eraser. As soon as I find it, it was just in my hand. Here we go. Right here. But we have that little bit of the light there, kind of create some form. And then we can come back here. Right in the corner of her eye. Goes right up here. These little things, you know, a lot of little things done right like this makes a painting. And that's cool. And let's see, airbrushing graffiti compares but more competitive than airbrush. Interesting, yes. So graffiti is very good as a community, but they're much more competitive. So I definitely understand that. Oh, how cool. And Astral says, do you make your own stubs? Oh, no. That's a good question. But I just buy them. You get the package of a whole bunch, which I need to get more. Whenever I go to the art store, I always pick up a package. I mean, since I moved, a lot of my art supplies are in storage. So, you know, and that's kind of rough. You know, I used to have everything around. And it gets expensive because I have to buy things that are in storage and I don't have time to go searching for it in the storage. So you see, I can go back in and work on different parts of the alar cartilage, see? And so when you're working around, you can do some things. It might just take a while till you start seeing it better. And so right here, we're just going to move this down. And this is kind of part of this area right here. Goes into the nasal bones and then the procerus muscle and the glabella. And we got to make sure that we feel that glabella going down and the nasal bones start jutting out from that glabella, that indentation that's between her eyes. I mean, the human body is so beautiful, you know. It's just a part of perfection, you know. It really is, and more intimidating also. And oh well, JC says, well, must leave. Oh, take care, JC. It's great to see you, and thank you so much for hanging out. And so cool. And Michael says, someone said to him yesterday that he should do videos on TikTok. You know, so I have mixed. I think TikTok is basically for the silly dances and everything like that. But I never say never. You know, you may go on TikTok and it might be exactly what you're looking for. So my feeling is this. I think you should test the waters. See if you like it. See if your stuff resonates on that platform. For me, my stuff doesn't resonate on that platform. I'm much too sedate for that crowd. I feel that's the goldfish crowd. You know, they have the attention span of a goldfish. And the funny thing about that crowd is that I see people just bamboozle them, and because the TikTok crowd is easy to fool, they'll believe anything, you know. If I have a photo of Abraham Lincoln, and I said to them that, you know, I seen Abraham Lincoln on the subway and did the drawing, half of them would be believing me. It's like, you saw Abraham Lincoln on the subway? Was it a guy dressed like Abraham Lincoln? So that's the kind of people you find at TikTok. You know, and, but, you know, the stuff might resonate. You know, you just don't know. Instagram is in between TikTok and YouTube. YouTube is a platform where people mostly want to learn. They don't want to see silly dances and stuff like that, I think. Yeah, but you know what? There's some great artists on TikTok, but you know, it's all predicated on, you know, goldfish mentality, you know? I mean, you can't get any sense of me in 20 seconds. I don't care. I don't want to have any sense of me in 20 seconds. You know what I mean? And there may be exceptions to the rule, but I know what TikTok and its algorithms are going for. Now, Instagram is a good, people are still, you know, looking for information, but as far as YouTube is also a search engine. So that's why YouTube is definitely the way to go to if you wanna do this as a business, YouTube is definitely the way to go. The other stuff, you know, I don't know. I just think it's socially interesting. Ashel says he got his hands on a load of empty vape bottles from a vape shop, and they were happy to give me as many as I wanted free. Oh, cool. What do you do with them? Now, here's something that you might want to go into, because it's much better for what you do. Think about Twitch. Now, if you can get a foothold on Twitch, you could make money with that, because those who have Amazon Prime can give you a monthly subscription that you get money, and it doesn't cost them anything. So that's really cool. So I would do Twitch if I was going to explore something outside of YouTube. I do Instagram. I have an Instagram account, and it does fairly well. But for me, I think, and let me hear what other people think, I think it's important to really concentrate on your main thing, whatever that is. Get that off the ground, and then go from there. But tests are good. Wow, Mr. Gregory, how's it going, my friend? Great to see you. I am so glad you're here. How is the traveling going? Is the traveling over? If it is, I'll send out that package tomorrow, sir. And so how is the vacation? Not vacation, you traveling, right? I think you were going to Pennsylvania and then California. So that is so cool to see you, sir. And I'm very interested in how you're going to like what I'm sending you. So I'm very excited. I got a lot of really cool things to send you. And should I send it in a couple of days or should I send it tomorrow? You let me know, sir. Oh, I fly back in the morning. Okay, so you're back home? Is that true? Because you went to PA, Cali, Nevada, and Kansas, back in Texas. So that's going out tomorrow, and we'll get that out to you. And it has everything you're going to need to really get into the Airbrush India inks. So that's going to be great. And all right, fantastic. Thank you. And so that's great. How was the business trip, sir? So what I was talking about, Dave, was making sure that my values are compressed to make the values closer, but still have the form turn, right? So you still go from light to dark, but you make those values closer. And what happens is when you do that, you get more of a sense of form, and it turns much better. But you get this classical feel to it, which is really like a wonderful fringe benefit to it. So in our 21st century way of painting, we want contrast, right? That's all we want. We just strive for contrast. Our teachers tell us contrast, contrast, contrast. Our photos are contrasty, but what we want to do is go back to what the 19th century painters did, like Bouguereau and Lefay and those artists, and really compress those values. And look at the beauty when we do compress those values. There's something special going on, right? You see something special when we compress those values. She starts to have that porcelain feeling, you know, which is really cool. The trip was good, fantastic, accomplished a lot, but be glad to get back at the trailer. Very cool. And use your new compressor, right, sir? So I'm sure you're itching to do that. So you're going to get an email from me tonight after the live stream and give you more information on what's coming, Dave. So that's cool. And Dave says, looking great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, and I very much appreciate the super chat. It's just so encouraging. Thank you so much, you and Michael. You guys are, you know, just amazing. I just want you to know that, and I appreciate you so much. And see how we compress those values. Now we're set up to hit some really nice highlights and maybe some darks, right? So it's cool to have that set up. Michael says he told the person that said that to him that he's just getting into YouTube and not ready to do another channel yet. Oh, I see. Yes. And so I think it's important to get your feet wet with different Facebook is a great way to get your feet wet. You know, post all the time. You know, do as much work as you can. John Michel Basquiat in the movie, he says you have to do the work all the time, and the same type of work, because otherwise people will get mad. So there's a certain truth to that people expect something from you, that you should continue the same type of work, because when you change, people get upset, and that's 100% true. Do you guys feel that way? If all of a sudden an artist is doing something different, do you feel like it's kind of like, hey, what's this guy doing? Who is he? Sort of thing. But I think as an artist, and not as a business person or an artist that wants to sell their work, I think that you need to constantly grow and constantly reinvent yourself, like Madonna, right? Like Madonna, you want to constantly reinvent yourself, you know? And let's see, Astral says he's filled them with pre-mixed airbrush colors. Vape bottles have small nozzles and are perfect for filling with the airbrush. How cool is that? And Michael says, oh, cool. And Dave says Ashley will have to see if he can do the same. Great idea. And so Facebook and Instagram are good. I definitely would try Twitch. I would try Twitch a lot quicker than, but that's a great thing about advice, Michael. It's free for a reason. So you do what you feel you have to do, what feels good to you. So cool. So you see how I can really push that alar cartilage there on the nose. And notice how I lightened her eyes. Now I can take a little bit of paintbrush action. Right here I have this really beautiful paintbrush. And I think I'm going to use just a detail mixture. And I'm going to do the border around her eye. And that's going to be good. Just have to find my practice sheet right here. I'll start it and then come in with the detail. We'll see how this kind of reacts. I want to darken it, and we're going to have to do dry brush. You don't want it too wet, but and then we can really make her eyes really powerful. Just piercing, you know? Just really captivating the viewer. And that's what a portrait is, you know? If it's not captivating the viewer, you didn't do it right. So you really want that person to, like, really want to get to know your sitter, your subject, right? It's like, who is she? Who is he? If you can do that, I feel when I do a portrait, I get a sense of who that person was, their personality, stuff like that, which is really fascinating. And just look how that kind of sings. And now I'm going to darken this here, and then come in with the crease here. And let's see, Astral says, got the idea off of Rob. Very cool. A lot of great ideas off of his channel, right guys? Okay, so now we're going to go into the other eye, and I'll zoom in for you so we can really see my thinking and execution and all that. Some paintings, it's like all paintbrush work, right? But some paintings, you know, you only do a few. Every painting is its own little thing, you know? It's like a kid. You know, every kid's gonna be different. One area is gonna be like, wow, that was easy, and the other area is like, what's going on? Why is this so hard? And see how now we can feel that eye, right? That eyeball inside the upper and lower eyelid, right? And you want to feel, see how I'm kind of following her eye with that, you know, it's an eyeball in all different directions. And her eyebrow is a little more massive here, so we're going to kind of put that in. And so I hope this is, you know, I'm going to go back to color probably next week, you know, but it's good to do both, right? To show you black and white techniques as well as color techniques. So this is going to be everything for this particular. There's a couple of tiny little eyelashes here. I do mean tiny. And let's zoom out a bit here. Now we can see the eyebrow goes all the way to the corner of the eye, so we can definitely move this eyebrow down here now. See that? So get the vertical and you can see if it's off or not. Okay, so that's pretty good, so I'm happy with that. Let's go with the eyebrows here. So I have a tendency, since I was a little kid, when I do portraits, to make the eyebrows a lot thinner than they are. I don't know why, it's just something I always do, you know. And let's see, Michael says he learned a good lesson last week where he deleted 2 videos, so don't have to try something else right now. Oh man, so sorry about that. You hold your paintbrush really close to the finger. Interesting. So you mean like choking up like that? Yeah, definitely. Gives you more control. You know, the design with the long handles on paintbrushes, especially oil paintbrushes, that's an antiquated thing. That's like from the old days, and they still keep it. No one paints like that anymore. So short handles are really good on paintbrushes. Just going to reiterate the dark here. Oh, we're going back to the eyebrow here. And that ends actually well in front of the eyelid here. So we're going to actually bring that forward like right here. See that? See how we can move that forward? And we went a little bit too far, so that's okay. We can go ahead and bring back the white pastel. Never be impressed with a mistake. Meaning, don't try and fix it, you know, right away. It's just a mistake, and, you know, it's something that you can take care of. Don't let it become bigger than what it is by trying to, like, oh my God, I have to fix this right now. You don't have to fix it right now. You take your time, right? You just take your time. And this is a great live stream. You know, we have 16 people right now in the room. And that's fantastic, and this is like, it's past the first hour, so that's great. Thank you guys and girls for hanging. Those who, you know, aren't in the chat, I just want to say thanks for hanging out, and that's bottom of my heart, so that's good. And so let's see. Okay, so I'm going to bring this over a little bit further. And I'm doing the dry brush technique, which means I'm getting rid of excess water in my brush. It gives you more control. See how, you know, it looked like it was a big mistake, but as I just painted around it, the issue went away on its own accord. So I don't get impressed with a mistake. It usually seems a lot more important than it is. Alright, so let's take a look and see how good it looks or bad. Okay, her eyes are looking much more compelling, much more exciting, and that is really wonderful. So, and that's what we want to do. We want it to be compelling, right? So we don't want to just get a likeness. We don't just want to, you know, paint a pretty picture, but we want to have something that's powerful, that's going to kind of grab you from the other end of the gallery and say, come here. And that's what I want to do with a portrait. And let's see here. Now this light is going to be super powerful. Look how strong that is. I want it to be strong, right? And even though it shouldn't be in the dark, I'm going to put it anyway. You have the dark side and the large side. So I'm going to sacrifice realism for effect. See how powerful that is? Even when we zoom out, you're going to see how powerful that becomes. Now she's piercing your soul, so to speak. And let's see here. Michael says you hold your brush really close to the finger. Yes. Is that Rachel Weisz? Sure looks like her. It does look like her, but it isn't. But yeah, Rachel Weisz has that very same kind of quality, doesn't she? And I love that. So definitely see what you mean. And let's see. So yeah, I'm liking that very much. Now we got to make the sclera, right? The white of the eye. It's not just the white of the eye. There's things going. We have to take into consideration where the light is coming from. It's a ball, like a ball in space. So where that ball is facing the light is going to get more white, right? So that's how we have to look at it. What's facing the light gets more white. And let's see, Michael says he's going to try holding the brush closer, like different things like that. You know what the best thing to do is just watch artists, like when you're doing live stream, really watch them, and if you have a question, write it down. And when you write that down, like me, you just IM me, text me, whatever, I'll be happy to answer your question. But we forget the question, so if you have a question, write it down. That's really important. Mr. Brad from Manitoba, Canada. How's it going, my friend? So glad to see you, sir. So we're going to look at the white of the eye on the camera left eye, right? Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so now we have her. And, okay. Now, the white of her eye is going to be more powerful in the sclera facing the light. See that? How it's just a little bit more powerful as it faces the light. And if you go over it, no worries. You just take your trusty little kneaded eraser and kind of pull that over. And then here, right along the edge of the iris is going to be a little bit of light. See that on the sclera? And that's going to, and then also the eyelid is going to cast a shadow if the light is coming from above. Meaning if the light source is above your model, right? If it's higher than your model like the sun, then your eyelid is always going to cast a shadow. And see how more realistic that looks. Now we can see a little bit of moisture right by the shelf of the lower eyelid. A little bit of moisture right there. See that little bit of moisture? And we can have a little bit of moisture where just sort of you get a little bit, and then you can take your kneaded eraser and calm that down. And then we can calm this down right here. And now we feel that eye has a little bit of moisture there. Maybe you can do a little bit here too. Just kind of hitting that, and you can kind of de-emphasize that. And now we can definitely come over here. And let's look at it from a distance. Remember, this is a small eye, right? That's my pinky, so look how small that is. If I was working bigger, it would be a lot easier. But we're not after easy. We're just after beauty. Beauty and truth, right? And let's go ahead. I don't like that, so let's Let's fix it. There we go. And again, you know, you want to stick with it and kind of bring that over. Alright, so we'll zoom out and see what we have. Okay, that eye is really doing well. And let's just tap this. You have to work back and forth, right? It's all part of it, especially when you're working small. There we go. Okay, that eye I'm happy with. And so see right here the lid or the lip, the ledge of the lower eyelid. That's a little too powerful. So let's just tap it and we can bring that in line. Compress those values, right? It goes a long way. Now if that's not doing the trick, then you can just dust it with your detail mixture. Watch this. Just test the airbrush. And we're just going to dust that. And just kind of calm down that value. See that? Just calm it down a little bit. Come over here. It's very soft edge in comparison to what's going on in the light. Things are a lot less defined in the shadow side. One time I was in the elevator at the National Academy and I did what I thought was the best portrait I ever did in my life. And Harvey was in the elevator and he says, you know, on the shadow side, the light cannot be the same intensity as on the light side. And I'm like, oh man. So yeah, he kind of straightened me out in the elevator, which was funny. So I'm gonna go and take a quick bathroom break, guys. Please stay with me, and then we're gonna bring her together, kind of work on the hair, and but I think her face is looking pretty good. We're gonna put some hard edges in her dress, work on some of these too hard edges here, do some of the sensitivity of her hair, and I think we're home free. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you guys, and I'll be right back. Okay, thanks so much for waiting for me. I appreciate that, everybody. Hope you went and got a soda or a cup of tea or what have you. And I'm just going to take a quick sip. This is really good. Have you ever tried Polar Premium Half and Half? It's natural grapefruit and lemon flavored soda. It's a sparkling beverage. It's so good. They also have I think a pink grapefruit, which is really good. Highly recommend if you want something, you know, not too sweet, but still very refreshing. I highly recommend that. And Astral said he did an airbrush of a female eye on A4 sheet and showed it to his neighbor, and she said it freaked her out due to how real it looked. That's the power of the airbrush. Yeah, definitely. The airbrush is amazing. It is such a wonderful tool. That's for certain. And let's see here. So right here, I believe I have too much of a compression. I mean, it's not compressed enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of compress these values a little bit. Kind of soften that up. And really create that beauty, you know, of the female form, of having those values very graceful and close to one another. And that really gives it a feeling of almost being porcelain-like, which I do love in a classical portrait. Now this reflected light, that reflected light, although it's beautiful, it's a little overzealous. So we're going to calm that down. See how that's much more softer, much more elegant? And that's what we're looking at here, that elegance. You can have those beautiful dark accents that really give the work depth and emotion. When I look at works like, you know, 19th century French academic painters like Jacques-Louis David, John Auguste Dominique Ingres, you'll see this kind of subtlety there. Now they're not, so why do I call myself, you know, why do I don't call myself a photorealist? Because I'm not going exactly with the photograph. I'm using the photograph to create elegance and beauty and emotion. If I went with the photograph, it might have those elements, but if I'm looking for it with knowledge of great paintings from the 19th century, I can kind of take that photo reference and kind of bend it to my own means, you know, which is really great. Wendy, have a great night. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. And I hope you have a great weekend as well, Wendy. And Kelly, how's it going, sir? How's vacation going? I know you've been enjoying yourself, and so that's wonderful. So that is so fantastic. And Mr. Michael McClung says, okay, folks, the pumpkin has arrived, and with the talking horse, you have a fantastic week going to watch on the big screen now. Thank you so much, Michael. And when the airbrush arrives, I want to hear all about it. Okay, sir? And so I'm excited to see what you think. And so glad that the Badger parts came. So if anyone is interested in an airbrush, both the large cup and the small cup are available. And so I can get that to you within a week. So, and I'll throw in a free set of the Airbrush India inks. If you're interested, if anyone's interested, you just go to www.inkflingers.com and I will have the airbrush there. Now, you would just purchase the airbrush and you would let me know, you know, that you would want either the Extreme Patriot 105, which is the big cup, or the Extreme Patriot Arrow, which is a small cup. Everything's the same except for the bigger cup. Okay, so that's cool. And keep airbrushing. Yes, that's very cool. And so great, Michael. Thanks for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate you. Okay, so I'm really happy with where it's going right now. And what we're going to do is, let's put some highlights again on her lower lip here. Just going to kind of stipple. Put a little moisture on her lip there. Now what I can do from there is I can take this and kind of push that down. See that? And now I could use the pastel that I put down there and then just follow the contour of her lips. Right here, on the corner of her lip, let's go ahead and look at that. What's one thing that we can do to kind of give that a little more oomph? We'll zoom in here. Right on this edge here, there's a light. I'm going to try it with the Fons and Porter. It's kind of working. But like I said, the surface is really saturated with everything. But let's see if I can pull it down. Nope, we're going to have to use the big guns. And let's see. Astro likes the arrow. He's got the feeling the cup getting in the way. He's used to side feed cups. Yes, so, you know, so it's all what feels good to you, you know? And that's important. Tone says he's going to catch up with you later, Tim. It's been a pleasure to watch you as usual. Tone, take care, my friend. Keep airbrushing. That's so cool. Dave, the bigger cup is so great when you're working on details, you know? I mean, not detail, but backgrounds. It's really great. So, you know, if you get it, they complement each other, right? And especially when you're working on, let's say, the white mixture and you're putting that through the airbrush. It just, being that larger cup kind of feeds the nozzle a little bit more, you know? So I like it better for thicker, you know? And also larger applications. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to try and hit this right on that corner there. That's going to give a feeling of space. And it's just not doing it, so like I said, I gotta hit the bigger guns. And just kind of hit this really hard. And now I can take my Extreme Patriot arrow and I could hit that like right there. And don't worry, you can always cover that little bit of overspray. We have the stump to save the day. So let's see. There, just give it, you know, that's why it's important to stick with an area, because our tendency is to leave before we solve the problem. And now we can use our eraser to kind of shape it. And that's probably the best thing we did right now. Kind of bring that down. That's what I was trying to do the whole time. Then we can take the white pastel and tone, so that's cool. So tone, always good to see Tone. Glad he's airbrushing again and back in New York. He didn't like Florida too much. Florida is definitely a culture shock from being in the New York area. There we go. See how it's starting to come out? Took a while. You gotta keep messing with it. Don't give up. And now I have a feeling of what I was looking for. Okay. There we go. I mean, it was a little bit of a pain, but we persevered and got through it. And now I'm going to compress this value over here. The value changed a little strong here. And yeah, I mean, contrast is good, but you know, you don't want it to sacrifice contrast or being a photorealist to concentrate to kind of get rid of the idea. You want to create a beautiful painting before you want to copy a photo. Remember, photos are never as good as a painting, ever. See how by compressing that form, it's going to look much better. Like I said, she's going to have that porcelain look about her. Not to objectify her, but just to give her that really kind of dreamy classical look. That's what I mean. Not her being porcelain, of course. Now on the bottom here is interesting. There's a little bit of reflected light on the bottom of the upper lip. It's hard to see, but I'm going to accentuate a little bit because I love the way that looks. Just really kind of creates a beauty. Let's see how it looks. Proof's in the pudding, right? Okay, that's a little too much, right? So you can say, yeah, Tim, that's great, but, you know, go back to where it was. And you're right. Let's go ahead and kill that reflected light. It just didn't work. But this part worked, so we can kind of bring that in and zoom out. And let's zoom out and see what we have here. Okay, so I'm really liking it. She's alive, right? And that's what we're looking for. Again, you know, I keep saying it. That's my new mantra is, I'm not Buddhist or anything, or Hindu mantra, but that's my new kind of, my motto is to compress these values. Too strong here, so let's soften this up. You don't want to get rid of the contrast, but you just want to soften it up. And it just creates a little bit more of that mystery. And then we can come in with the stump here and kind of push this in. So if anyone's interested in this painting, please let me know. Let's just soften this up here. I want her to feel like she's going to say something. That's what I want. Just before she's going to say something, I want you to feel that in the portrait, like she's going to say something to us. Astral says he likes the arrow. He's get the feeling the cups are getting into. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so I'm caught up with all the comments, which is great. It's good to be caught up. Yeah, there's so much to do, right? You look and you look, and there's always something to make the painting better. Pablo Picasso said a painting's not completed, it's just abandoned, and I really feel that to be so. And let's see, so this live stream is going really fast. So, you know, a lot of work in her. I'm gonna have to finish this tonight at home, you know, in the studio. But let's go ahead and we're gonna come in with the light mixture. So I'm gonna dump out this detail mixture, and I'm gonna do the light mixture. We're gonna do it not straight light mixture. We're gonna do 1-to-1. So I have the light mixture here. Put this over here. And see, there's my light mixture. I'm going to do it 1-to-1. And 1-to-1 with water. Like I said, it can be regular tap water. You're just using it tonight, you know. You're not storing it. But otherwise, you want to use that like purified water. Otherwise. Okay, so now we're going to put this light mixture here, diluted 1-to-1 with water. Put this aside. And of course, we're going to test it out. You never know. You always want to make sure your first spray is not on your work. I'm going to get rid of the detail mixture that was in there. Okay, nice and dark now. Okay, so now we're going to hit some of the darker areas to do some dark accents. And I find that her sweater, her shirt, or what have you, is a little light. So I'm just going to do some accents. See how I can pull some drama to her dress there. And just a little bit, a little drama, just to give interest. Perpendicular and not parallel. That gives you more, you know, it gives you more control. And right here, we could hit this. So you go in perpendicular, and then you say, well, how do you get it lighter if you go in perpendicular? Well, you increase your distance. The further the spray, the lighter, the further away, lighter the spray, right? Remember that. When you have the darker mixtures, you're playing more for keeps. That means you don't have as much wiggle room as you do when you're working with the detail mixture. So you got to be a lot more controlled and careful with this. There we go. And we are getting a little more clarity here. Let's bring some darks into here. So we want to have the feeling of her turning, right? The forms turning. So I'm going to actually make it so the dress, you feel it turning as her breasts go down, because her breasts are round. So we want to make sure we get that form. And then over here as well, we want to kind of feel it being darker as it turns under. These are little things that you have to really kind of imagine yourself really feeling the forms, feeling the turning of the forms. I'm not being fresh here, even though it does sound I'm being fresh, but you know, with these breasts, you really have to feel them as they are turning towards the light and away from the light. Even in the shadows, you know, it has to be darker as it turns away from the light. The light's above, right? So you want to feel You want to feel these forms turning. And let's see what I missed here. Let's see. Astral says, I have a lot of abandoned airbrush paintings. They are orphans now. Oh, man. You can always bring them back, right? And Dave says, definitely his issue. When is the painting complete? Love the abandoned thought. Yes, definitely. It's hard, you know? Like, I remember going to art school, and this one artist, he was so good, right? And I remember it, and I looked at it as a cautionary tale. All of a sudden, when he would get close to finish, he would keep changing it. He would keep rubbing out the face, rubbing out the nose, and then putting it back in. And he never finished the painting for a whole year. It's like he got involved in this whole thing that, you know, nothing was ever good enough. Done is better than perfect every day. So don't worry about whether it's perfect. Just get it done and then move on. Remember the excitement of the next piece of artwork you're going to fix, or that's going to be what it's about. You know, what was it about the painting you just finished that you wish you could have done from the very beginning? That's what your next painting is about. Think about it. Think of how exciting that is. You know, each painting is a reaction to your last painting, and that is what fuels me. You know, like this painting, there's something in this painting I wish I had done differently in the beginning, but that's what my next painting is going to be about. And in that way, you have a pragmatic, linear progression of your improvement, because if something was off, you know that the next painting, that's what it's going to be about. Case in point, one time I was doing a several figure composition, and it was her fingernails in the painting that was not, I just hated the way the fingernails were. I didn't think it out and really plan it, and that very next painting I did the most beautiful fingernails ever. I didn't stop the painting because those I kind of said, okay, that's where I was. The next painting I improve on it, and then everything's from there. But never, you know, that painting, look at paintings as documents, right? That's where you were. So if I wasn't painting fingernails correctly, that's okay. That's where I was as an artist. And that's where I were as an artist. And that's, I think, is the beauty of it. But that next painting is, you know, we're going to do better in that next painting. And that's what's cool. And and that you can see how we're kind of working this out, you know. And Kelly says, great advice. Oh, thank you so much. Awesome insight. Mr. Dave says, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And yeah, and take notes, you know. Taking notes is really important at any level. You know, you take notes with your artwork. You know, like fighter pilots and bomber pilots used to have a debriefing. And that's how they learned, because it was life and death. You better learn by your mistakes in World War II. And that's exactly what we should do as artists, right? We should figure, like, you know, what's the takeaway? I know that's sort of like, you know, corporate mumbo jumbo talk. I really hate corporate talk, but in this case, what is the takeaway, you know? So right now I have this hard edge right here, and I'm going to really kind of obliterate it, especially right here. It's too hard, and I'm just going to do that whole thing, you know. Get yourself a fairly aggressive eraser and do that little circular motion, half in the light, half into the dark, until there is a blur between the two. Now the trick is, there is no trick, but the technique is to make sure that you don't use too much pressure. Remember, for me, I'm using paper, and I don't want to damage the paper. Damage the paper, and you're going to have a hard time with the rest, right? So these are techniques that are really important, but I don't really worry about the edges until, like, in this much, until, like, the end of the painting. Because everything's in place, you know, you have a lot of ink or paint on the surface, so you can get, like, really nice blends, and you can erase really nicely. And really loving how we're able to, you know, fix these edges here. And now we do have, actually, it's pretty soft edge, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it hard edged right here. I'm going to kind of not pay attention to the photograph, but what I think would look good. So I'm going to have the edge right here as it comes towards her blouse or dress. Just kind of pull this over. And now I have this super soft edge. I'm going to come in. Now I have this light mixture, diluted light mixture, which is nice and dark, and you're going to see it's really going to assimilate this really nicely. And remember, Rome isn't built in a day. Come back to it, right? Don't worry about making it perfect and going back. You have all the time in the world to do several coats to get exactly what you want. And now we have this really soft edge. I'm going to let it dry and come back, which is important. And let's keep this going here. I may come back with a freehand shield, but I don't want, I mean with the stencil, but I don't want to create hard edges. That's going backwards at this stage. What I want to do now is just start softening. See, now I can come back and hit this area again until I'm happy with it. I don't have to be perfect right away. And, oh cool, so Astra wrote that one down. That's great. Yeah, I mean, edges is such an important part of painting, you know, especially in portraits. You know, there's so many elements, but the hard and soft edges and the interplay between those two really say a lot. This is nice and soft here. I'm gonna hit this. And now, you know, if I get a little bit of overspray, it's okay. I kind of like it at this stage. Not at the face, though. Not on her face. But over here. A little bit over here. There we go. And just keep working back and forth. At this stage, it's all gravy, right? It's all, whatever we do now is improving what I already like on it. And so I kind of look at it that way. We have some beautiful darks here. And without using any kind of shields, we're getting some natural softening of the hairline, which is good. I wouldn't do that in the early stages. Now the next stage I may hit some areas with the straight light mixture, then the diluted medium mixture, then the medium mixture. I no longer have the dark mixture part of the set because you don't really ever need the dark mixture. And you can come in and soften that edge even more. And you know, it's all about, you know, just making it as beautiful as possible. And so what do I mean about compressing the values? So compressing the values basically means that instead of using value 1 and 8 from the lightest light to the dark, let me see if I could kind of illustrate what I mean. So here are our values from light to dark. You have number 10 and you have number 1. So if you're working on a portrait, you should stay with, I would say, maybe between number 3 and maybe number 3 to number 7, and try and compress that when you're working on it. And when you're making things turn, you want to make it turn between, let's say, values 3 and number 7, or maybe even values 2 and number 6. And you want those values to be the only values you're using. And that really causes you to really envision and see those forms turn from light to dark because you're only using those values. When you get everything turning from values 2 and 6 or from 3 to 7, then you have beautiful form and everything really feels good. And then when you come in with those dark accents and those light accents, those highlights, things are really going to explode. So that's something to think about. That's how the 19th century painters did. You know, the old masters, they basically compressed those values, and it forced them to really see the forms and make the nose turn and make the eyeball turn, and you know, without you know, relying on highlights and darkest darks, and really forces us to see the real nuances of it. Put through some really nice little highlights here. So I'm probably going to stay up for another hour finishing this up, but we are at 11:30 almost. Let's see. Getting close to 11:30. So I hope this was informative. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Wednesday night, everybody. Thank you so much, Mr. Dave and Mr. Michael, for the amazing super chats and your friendship. Thank you everyone for hanging out. So this is basically it so far. There's going to be little changes, but this is it. This is who she is. So I hope it was successful, and I did my best, and that's all we can do. And so if you're interested in buying my Airbrush India inks, they're on inkflingers.com. You also can get the airbrushes there as well. If you buy the airbrush, you get free inks, so that's cool. So thanks, Astral. Always a pleasure. Hope you feel better. Everyone, take care. And Dave, expect an email shortly from me. And I will talk to everyone everyone next week or during the week if you have any questions. Bye, everybody.